Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to this week's edition of War of Words. We've been away during the Ramadan period, and your regular host, Hussein Mehdi, is unfortunately away on holiday at the moment, but I'm standing in his place. And we're bringing to you a really important topic, which I think for every household is absolutely vital to engage with and to understand. But we've dealt with it in the past. We're visiting it again today because it's just one of those absolute crucial issues on a daily basis that we need to really clarify. Halal food. Is halal really halal? How halal is halal food? We've got all sorts of news media scaremongering going on. We've had cases of pork DNA found in meat which is ostensibly supposed to be halal. With me on the show today, I have the pleasure of introducing some very qualified individuals who, on the halal issue, are probably some of the foremost practitioners, but also commentators. I have to my left Nizar Bogazab, who has Universal Halal as an organization which he's run for many years, and is arguably one of the experts on the halal issue in Britain, and is advisor to various government authorities and other associations and individuals who have to look at the halal meat issue currently. I also have with me Mr. Saqib Mohammed. Saqib is the CEO of the Halal Food Authority, and with him is Mr. Awal Fusini.
Yeah.
Awal, you're an actual inspector, a meat inspector.
Yeah, my background is in meat. I completed a master's degree in meat science from Bristol University, so I'm more specialized in meats.
And Hussein, I mean, Saqib, your connection with the meat industry, how have you got into it, and what's your qualification?
Actually, what it is that I came from a different background, but I'm internally trained and I've become qualified by experience by working into different roles within the organization. And I have done a lot in auditing. I have been trained in Indonesia for auditing halal foods, and I have done quite a few courses with BRC, British Retail Consumer Consortium. And I've also undergone some HACCP and food safety training in the UK. So that has made me that has given me quite an extensive skills and training portfolio to work on.
तो इसमें हमारी उर्दू ऑडियंस के लिए थोड़ा सा आप ही शुरू करें इस सिलसिले में कि जो ये स्कैंडल शुरू हुआ था रिसेंटली, उसका हम अभी एक क्लिप भी देखेंगे, लेकिन आप थोड़ा सा इसको समराइज कर सकते हैं कि क्या हुआ था और अब क्या किया गया है. Basically, they found pork DNA in halal meat. I mean, how did this come about?
Yes, सबसे पहले तो मैं उर्दू में
जी बिल्कुल.
उसमें ये हुआ था कि सबसे पहले जो ब्रोक आउट न्यूज़ हुई थी उससे ये पोर्ट्रे किया गया कि पोर्क मीट उसमें से निकला था और लोगों ने कहना शुरू किया था कि भाई पोर्क मीट है. It was DNA that was carried over, may have been carried over from previous production, or may have been because of human error, because of some cleaning blunder.
ये सफाई का मसला था.
Yes, ये भी हो सकता है. इसके अलावा ये चीज़ ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में भी हो सकती थी, ये चीज़ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में भी हो सकती थी, ये चीज़ वेयर हाउसिंग में भी हो सकती थी, और यो 3663 जो कि इन्वॉल्व थे इसकी ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में, वो उनके ऑपरेटर्स भी इन्वॉल्व हो सकते थे. बिकॉज वी डिड नॉट नो, हमें ये नहीं पता चला, ये नहीं बताया गया, किसी भी अथॉरिटी ने ये चीज़ रिलीज़ नहीं की है न्यूज़ कि जो टेस्टिंग हुई थी उस वक्त प्रोडक्ट्स का स्टेट क्या था. वर दे पैक्ड, वर दे ओपन, वर दे इन द लॉरी, वर दे इन द लॉजिस्टिक्स. So at that time it was there was no conclusive report whatsoever. Okay, where did it happen actually? So we are still struggling to find that information, but we are yet to receive that. And तो ये सारे सर्कमस्टांसेस ऐसे थे कि उसमें पब्लिक का जो कॉन्फिडेंस था वो शेक हो गया. तो लेकिन उसके बाद जो था, हम लोगों ने जो इसके लिए स्टेप्स लिए वो लोगों को पता है कि हम लोगों ने स्ट्रेट अवे मैकॉलगन की सब्सक्रिप्शन रिवोक कर दी, और इसके अलावा हम लोगों ने कैसे ऐसे प्रोसीजर्स इवॉल्व किए कि हम ये चीज़ एलिमिनेट करना चाहते हैं फ्यूचर के लिए. फॉर एग्जांपल, हम लोगों ने अपने फ्रीक्वेंसी बहुत इंक्रीज़ कर दी है, अनअनाउंस ऑडिट्स हमने शुरू कर दिए हैं, हम लोगों ने काफ़ी सारे जगहों से सैम्पल्स कलेक्ट करके खुद ही टेस्टिंग की है. तो ये सारे प्रोसीजर्स हमने किए हैं, और इसके अलावा अब ऐसी कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को सर्टिफाई नहीं करते कि जहाँ पे कोई भी पोर्क एंड डेरिवेटिव हम रखा हो.
अच्छा, थैंक यू साकिब. ये तो इब्तिदा होगी, लेकिन अभी हम आपको एक क्लिप दिखाएंगे जिसमें इसी पोर्क DNA जिसके बारे में साकिब मोहम्मद साहब जिक्र कर रहे थे, उसकी थोड़ी सी फिल्म है, फिल्म रिपोर्ट। इस रिपोर्ट को देखें और उसके बाद फिर गुफ्तगू जारी करेंगे।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Brothers and sisters, this is Saqib Muhammad, Chief Executive of Halal Food Authority. Further to the several concerns and questions raised by some organizations and individuals on pork DNA scandal, Halal Food Authority wish to reiterate to the Muslim community that Halal Food Authority is doing its utmost to eliminate the potential risks of contamination. We strictly follow our halal standards, our audit protocols, our fully documented compliance management system to ensure that all risk-prone manufacturing practices are avoided from all our halal certification schemes. We further stress that we have implemented increased frequency of unannounced audits of our certified meat and poultry plants. Pork processing is not permitted without being fully isolated from halal production, and no processing area, line or equipment can be shared between halal and porcine products, not even after deep clean down, since we need to tackle potential contamination at DNA level now. That's why deep clean down is classed as insufficient precautionary measure. We also take samples and undertake DNA testing wherever it seems appropriate. With regards to the pies that were found to have contaminated with pork DNA, manufactured by McColgan's Quality Foods in Ireland, ingredients are absolutely fine with no porcine derivatives in them. Cleaning was satisfactory. However, halal production was exclusively done on a Saturday. Meat supplier was credible and halal certified. That was a mere accident. Perhaps as a result of some human error or some breach of agreement on part of manufacturer, probably. Hence their certification was revoked as a precautionary measure with no conclusive evidence. Having said all this, the main pertinent questions still remain unanswered, that are who actually commissioned the testing, where the samples were taken from, did 3663 undertook the tests, and samples were again taken from manufacturer's premises that was actually covered by our certification scheme. So these are questions that we require answers for. We regret that several unfortunate incidents of pork DNA contamination have taken place quite recently, including those in Leicester and Birmingham, that also needs to be investigated by respective halal certifiers and arbitrators, while continuing to take the highest degree of care at our end.
Pork contamination in halal food. There have been several cases, as Mr. Saqib Muhammad from the Halal Food Authority was absolutely honest to admit. Nizar, you run Universal Halal. You've been involved in the halal meat sort of discussion over many, many years, and you have some models, some best practice that we'll share with you later in the program. But first of all, where does the problem fundamentally lie here?
The problem relating to cross-contamination is a very serious problem, and it is likely to happen where mixed species of animal processing is concerned, is carried on. It can happen at any stage, at any time, where open meat is handled, either on the machines itself or on the supplier's side of it. Actually, the meat that, supposing you import, say, beef, and that beef is supplied to a cutting plant or processing plant, that beef could actually come already contaminated by actually contact or cross-contaminated with pork from the slaughterhouses, from the cutting plant themselves, sort of thing. So you got starting point there where tests got to be done as the supplies come in. Once those tests, and they've got to be quite regular tests to make sure, and nothing gets processed until the tests are clear, sort of thing. And then you've got to go through the processing itself within the establishment, where processing is carried on. These are called, these are through the machines, the conveyor belts, and the whole lot of complicated gadgets through which the meat is shredded, done whatever it is done in terms of producing the pate or pies or burgers and so on. But those machines and the manufacturers of those production sites will tell you that because of the low consumption of meat products, it is too expensive for them to dedicate a whole machine line, if you like, for halal production. They're honest about it. We should be aiming for that, to say that line and that line alone will deal with halal. And by that I don't mean pork only, I mean other species, which is even the beef that we buy, which is really certified halal in the slaughterhouses, cannot or should not be contaminated with another beef which is not halal, which we'll never know because the DNA will be the same. But you can pick up, if you like, lamb DNA, if you like, sheep DNA in the beef DNA, sort of thing. So if there is cross-contamination through that route, even though there is no pork issue there, it is still objectionable because the cross-contamination this time is now with animal, if you like, the species which has not been slaughtered according to Islamic rituals. So you got problems on production sites throughout. And you can't be too careful into how we actually measure this, how do we supervise this, how do we take tests about it. And the tests got to be taken at that level. Tests have got to be taken when the one production line is finished, where the line is cleaned up, etc. Properly take species test, actually, DNA test on that. It's called protein test. We do protein test, and then once it's cleaned up, you still take tests to see that there is no protein left over at all. This is even not considering the pork itself. And then if you're going to be sharing the machine for that reason, you got to be ultra careful about how we actually test it at each level. The finished product, for instance, burgers and sausages, could be tested as well. And once you test that, this is the nth degree of your responsibility, if you like, to say, under the system that you have. And that is the standards which we employ, for instance, the standard, which is called the halal standard, which are BRC compatible. They've got to be there. And there's a whole length of due diligence on the part of the operators to say, yeah, well, we've done all we can. There was nothing else we could have done to foresee or prevent the problem. Now, in law, due diligence is a defense in the argument that you, as a proprietor or manufacturer, you've done all you could, and you've got to prove that that's called due diligence. And it's not different from any other production of food itself. Now, when it comes to meat, meat is very sensitive. We'll eat a lot of meat, and I mean a lot of meat, much to our own health damage, sort of thing. We ought to be cutting down on that for a start. The second thing is that we have standards. Each certification body, they've got their own standards. I don't know how compatible these standards are, but the standards got to be no compromises as far as I'm concerned. It's got to be thorough, and because we insist on certain things like pork not being there at all, sort of thing. Now, pork is the no-go area for everybody. You can have a very lapsed Muslim, not practicing Islam, doing everything under the sun, but one thing he will not do is eat pork or traces of pork. He run away from that. It is that sensitive, and yet pork is allowed. In desperate circumstances, we can eat pork. So what we have to do is to actually be ultra careful in products. Meat products, whether you do pork or anything, is extremely delicate issue. You've got to be ultra careful about that.
On that note, coming to meat products, I will focus on the meat, but of course the halal issue is not restricted to meat.
That's true.
In this case, we've dealt with pork contamination in meat, but halal is a much bigger issue, and we'll come on to that in the program as we go on. But we have a short news break, and after the news break, Saqib, I'm going to be coming over to you certainly to look at what standards of inspection there are around the meat initially. But halal food, halal meat, an issue that is going to strike at all of us. Do phone in. Your questions are welcome. In English or Urdu, we'll try and answer your questions as much as possible. Take advantage of the experts around the table. What are your concerns? Are you worried about the meat that you're buying? Are you suspicious? Do you have any cause for concern? Have you anything that you can share with us, any information which might help to improve our confidence in the meat that we are given in this country? Join us right after the break. Call lines will be open. Assalamu alaikum.